Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie McQueen, and I am a registered dietitian at the Center for Pulmonary Rehabilitation at the Miriam Hospital. Today, we are going to talk about pulmonary nutrition. Today, we will focus on four main themes of pulmonary nutrition. The first is to eat a balanced, nutrient-rich, anti-inflammatory eating pattern. An example of such a pattern would be the Mediterranean diet. Number two is going to be to limit sodium and added salt. Sodium causes fluid retention, which can make breathing harder. And also, many people with pulmonary disease may also have other medical conditions such as hypertension or kidney disease, which would also require a low sodium diet. Number three is to limit added sugars and excessive amounts of carbohydrates. Digesting carbohydrates produces more carbon dioxide than when digesting fat and protein. And when there's more carbon dioxide that has to be exhaled, this makes it harder to breathe. Also, some of you may be struggling with managing diabetes as well, and thus limiting added sugars and excessive amounts of carbohydrates would be important for that disease state as well. Number four is going to be to enjoy smaller, more frequent eating events. We want to avoid that increased work of breathing that can happen when you get overly full. This is the Mediterranean diet pyramid. So let's start by looking at the bottom widest part of the pyramid. That's where you're going to see plant-based foods, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, extra virgin olive oil, beans, nuts, legumes, and seeds. You see lots of different colors here from avocados, pomegranates, grapes, lemons, oranges, eggplants. These plant-based foods are going to be the base of every meal. Every meal should have some of these plant-based foods in it. Then working up the pyramid, we're going to get into some animal protein sources. The biggest animal protein source in your diet should come from fish and seafood. This should be eaten at least twice a week, if not more. Next would be poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. We can have moderate portions of these foods on the Mediterranean diet. We might have them once a day or a few times a week, but every single meal would not have, poultry in it. We'd want a lot of vegetarian meals from legumes and beans and a lot of seafood-based meals. And then at the top of the pyramid, we will see meats and sweets, and these should be consumed less often. That's why they are located at the most narrow part of the pyramid. Also, on the Mediterranean diet, they will use salt-free seasonings, fresh or dried herbs and spices to flavor their food, and have water with their meals. Now we're going to go through the Mediterranean eating pattern in a bit more detail. So on this eating pattern, when you are eating animal proteins, you want to choose the healthiest animal proteins possible. The most recommended one would be non-fried fish or seafood, having seafood at least 2 times a week. It can also be canned seafood, which can be very convenient and easy. Make sure when you're buying canned tuna, canned salmon, or canned sardines that you are buying the no salt added variety. Skinless chicken and turkey would also be great choices. Removing the skin is going to lower the saturated fat content. Ground turkey or ground chicken are a great substitute for ground beef. Instead of using ground beef to make meatballs or tacos or chili, you can use ground turkey instead. That way we are reducing our red meat intake. Eggs are also a great protein. If you want to maximize the amount of protein you're getting, but you don't want to overdo it on saturated fat because maybe you're managing elevated cholesterol levels, then I would recommend doing 1 whole egg with the yolk, but then adding in about a 1/2 cup of egg whites and mixing that together to make sure you get enough protein. Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are also healthy proteins that come from dairy. They do sell no salt added cottage cheese varieties, and then you could add in some canned pineapple or defrosted frozen mango. You could add in some nuts, and that would be a great breakfast or snack. It's recommended to eat plant-based proteins as often as possible, even to have some meals that don't have any animal protein at all and are only a plant-based meal. So things like beans and lentils, you can buy these in the dried version and soak them, but you can also buy them in a very convenient canned version, and they do sell no salt added options. Tofu and tempeh are great for stir fries. These come from soybeans. They are plain in flavor. They will absorb whatever marinades and seasonings you put on them, so they are very versatile. These are the plant-based proteins that we want to consume on an anti-inflammatory eating pattern versus the very popular plant-based processed foods like plant-based chicken nuggets or plant-based burgers or fake bacon. Those highly processed plant-based foods are not optimal. If we're really doing this the right way, we want to focus on beans, lentils, tofu, and tempeh for our plant-based proteins. We also want to eat nuts and seeds every day. Now, nuts and seeds do have some plant-based protein as well, but they wouldn't have enough to make that the only protein on your plate. But think of these as more as an accent to a meal or a snack. It will provide nutrition along with whatever else you're having it with. So unsalted varieties would be preferred. Any type of nut, almonds, walnuts, cashews, peanuts, pistachios, or nut butters, peanut butter, almond butter, cashew butter, as well as seeds, chia seeds, ground flax seeds, hemp, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. You can add these nuts and seeds to various meals and snacks. For example, having an apple with peanut butter or having Greek yogurt with chia seeds and walnuts mixed into it. Now, when it comes to grains like bread and rice and pasta, we recommend choosing whole grains instead of refined grains. Now, let's define what a whole grain is. When a grain is grown, it is grown as a whole grain. And this whole grain has three parts: the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. The bran is that outer layer. It protects the seed and provides a lot of fiber, B vitamins, iron, zinc, magnesium, and antioxidants. The germ is that orange circle at the bottom of the grain. That's the inner core that provides some healthy fats. And again, more vitamins, B vitamins, vitamin E, minerals, and a small amount of protein. And then the endosperm, which is that tan colored large oval, that is where the starchy part of the grain is. So the carbohydrates are going to be there, a little bit of protein and smaller amounts of vitamins and minerals. So when you choose a whole grain, you are getting the entire benefit of that grain. You're getting the starchy carbohydrate along with the fiber, along with the maximum amount of vitamins and minerals that you could get from that grain. On the flip side, when they refine a grain, they remove the bran and the germ. So they're removing some of the healthy parts of that grain and they're just leaving you the endosperm. So we want to choose whole grains so we can get more bang for our buck nutritionally. There are lots of different types of whole grains. Whole wheat is one type of whole grain. So if you're currently eating white pasta, you could try switching to whole wheat pasta. Or if you're eating white bread, you could try switching to 100% whole wheat bread. But there's other types of whole grains, including oats, quinoa, brown rice, wild rice, cornmeal or popcorn, farro, amaranth, barley, buckwheat, millet, and rye. Here we have quick cooking whole grain options with no added salt. So if you're looking for something that is easy to make without having to wait around for 45 minutes with boiling water on your stove, these are some great ideas. They are options that can be microwaved or cooked on the stove for anywhere from 90 seconds to 10 minutes. All of these need to be seasoned. They don't have any added salt. That is a good thing. Other rice packets that you might find, if they're flavored, they're going to be high in sodium. So make sure you're getting plain options, but choosing whole grains does not need to be the harder option, and we want to make it as easy as possible. On this pulmonary diet, we want to make sure we're eating fruits and vegetables every day. Yes, 7 days a week. Okay, at your meals, aim for a half plate of vegetables. So you could add vegetables to egg dishes in the morning. You could add veggies to your sandwich. You could add veggies to a pasta dish, to a grain bowl. You could have a salad. Try to eat as many vegetables as possible, but at least a half a plate at that dinner meal. But you'll get additional benefits if you do include vegetables with your breakfast, lunch, or snacks as well. We also want to be eating at least 2 fruits per day. It's okay to have more, but you want to be having at least 2 fruits. You can add these to your yogurt, to your oatmeal, to your cottage cheese. You can have fruit with nuts for a healthy, balanced snack. Especially if you have diabetes, you still do need to eat fruit. You just don't want to eat that fruit on its own. So pairing the fruit with Greek yogurt or nuts, pairing it with a protein or a healthy fat will help to stabilize blood sugar. Here are some simple ways to add more fruit, and make sure you're choosing no sugar added options at all times. So of course, fresh fruit is an option, but I'm providing additional options for when the fresh fruit is not in season or you don't have access to it. Maybe you go grocery shopping just once a week, so by the middle of the week you run out of your fresh fruit. Maybe you don't have the energy levels to wash and cut and prepare fresh fruit. So here are some alternatives that are also going to give you the health benefits of eating fruit. So the first is frozen fruit. This is a great option. I use frozen fruit all the time. Frozen berries are super easy to either add into a smoothie or put on top of some hot oatmeal. You don't have to cut it, you don't have to wash it. So for those of you looking to conserve energy, that would be a great option. You can also do canned fruit as long as it's in its own juice. So make sure you're not buying any canned fruit that is in syrup. Make sure it's in 100% juice. Dried fruit, freeze-dried fruit, those are great options. They're very easy to keep in your pantry. So when the fresh fruit runs out, maybe in the middle of the week, you have a backup plan. Unsweetened applesauce is also an option. It's not as great as eating an apple because when they make the applesauce, they take the peel off and that's going to remove some of the fiber. However, it is still a source of fruit and it's better than no fruit at all. And finally, there's fruit bars or fruit jerky. These are 100% fruit. They don't have any added ingredients. They're not a protein bar. They're not a meal replacement. They are just a fruit bar, but they are great to throw in your bag when you're running out of the house, running to an appointment. They're great to keep in your pantry again, so you have a shelf-stable option when you don't have fresh fruit. And all the way over to the right is a product called Fruit Jerky, which is kind of a play on beef jerky, but it's made just from fruit and they're quite delicious. So hopefully some of these ideas will allow you to increase the amount of fruits that you're eating on a daily basis. Here are simple ways to add in more vegetables. When you're choosing vegetables, only choose no salt added options. So of course, fresh vegetables are a great option, but again, showing you alternative ideas maybe you haven't thought of. Frozen vegetables are a great option. You can always have them available in your freezer. You can conserve energy because they are already washed and cut. They are just as nutritious, and sometimes in certain times of year, they actually have more nutrients than the fresh stuff on the shelf, like in the middle of winter when we don't have a lot of local produce. The frozen vegetables are frozen right when they're cut from the vine, and the freezing process allows the vegetable to retain all of its nutrients. So frozen vegetables, when you're getting the canned ones, make sure you're getting the no salt added canned options. They do not add salt to the frozen ones, so that's easy to find. Pre-washed salad greens, pre-cooked beets, pre-cut fresh vegetables. All of these things can help you to get healthy food on the table while conserving your energy. Healthy cooking methods include baking, roasting, steaming, grilling. We want to avoid frying foods in oil or butter, but air frying is a great option. When you're cooking, we primarily want you to use extra virgin olive oil. However, if you're doing high heat cooking, then I would recommend avocado oil. Salt-free seasoning blends are available to add lots of flavor to your food without any added salt. You can also use fresh or dried herbs and spices, garlic, lemon, and any other low sodium marinades or seasonings that you enjoy. Limit sodium and added salt. Put the salt shaker away, get that off the table. Opt for salt-free seasonings. There's pictures of that on the previous slide. We also need to limit takeout, restaurants, and fast food. Food that we get outside the home contributes more than 75% of people's daily sodium intake. You're not going to get low sodium meals from restaurants. You can try to tell them to put seasonings, on the side, put the cheese on the side, put the dressing on the side, don't add salt, but we can't guarantee that they're giving you a low sodium meal. So it really is best to decrease the frequency that you're eating out and prepare more foods at home. We want to limit high sodium foods like processed meats, sausage, hot dogs, pepperoni, ham, salami, bologna. We want to limit canned soups, frozen dinners, pizza, cheesy dishes. We want to limit pre-seasoned items. So instead of buying rice pilaf or rice-a-roni, we want to opt for plain rice and season it yourself. We want to make sure that we're always reading the labels. The nutrition facts labels will tell us how many milligrams of sodium per serving of that food. Make sure you check the serving size so you know what amount of that food has that amount of sodium. And if your portion is different than the serving size, figure out how much sodium might be in your portion and plan accordingly. When you're looking at the nutrition facts label, it will give you the milligrams of sodium, and then if you go over to the right-hand side, it will give you the percent daily value for sodium. If that percentage is more than 20%, it is considered a high sodium item. So try to not buy anything that has an over 20% daily value for sodium. Limit added sugars. So avoid sugary drinks like soda, sugary coffee drinks, and adding sugar to your coffee. Any juices that are not 100% juice. And even if it is 100% juice, limiting our portion to only 4 ounces. We want to avoid energy drinks, milkshakes, slushies, Gatorade. These added sugars are going to produce more carbon dioxide that you then need to exhale, so they can increase your work of breathing. Water should be your main beverage. We also want to limit frequent intake of high sugar foods such as candy, desserts, store-bought muffins, and pastries. It doesn't mean we can never have these foods, but if we're eating them every single day, they're going to impact our health, not only our breathing, but perhaps our weight, perhaps our blood glucose levels, and they're just not a part of a healthy diet that can be had in a high frequency. So make sure that water is your main beverage and eat sweets sparingly. And finally, enjoy smaller, more frequent eating events rather than large meals. A balanced snack between meals will help bridge that gap and prevent overeating or large portions at the next meal. Those large portions can make your breathing more labored, it can be more tiresome, hard to get through the meal, and you might not feel so great. But with smaller packages of nutrition throughout the day, you might feel better. Snacks should contain protein and/or a healthy fat. So they should have at least 2 food groups, one of those including some protein or a food that has healthy fat with a little bit of protein and fiber, such as nuts or nut butter. So examples could be Greek yogurt with nuts and fruit, cottage cheese with nuts, fruit, or whole grain crackers, banana with nut butter, hummus or avocado cup with raw veggies or whole grain crackers. And here is my pulmonary friendly snack idea list. So hopefully you can find a new option that maybe you haven't tried before and add some exciting, nutritious snacks to your day. If you have any questions, please schedule an appointment with me or email me at katie.mcqueen@brownhealth.org. Have a great day.